UFC 246. Wonderful, wonderful. How is everybody doing tonight? I'm doing
wonderful, wonderful.
Welcome, guys, to another episode of Fight Briefing. It's been a long time since I've seen you. In fact, the last time I got to see you guys for Fight Briefing was last year. How crazy is that? It's been a year since I've seen you guys for Fight Briefing. No, not really a year. 2019. Close enough. December was the last time we did a Fight Briefing. UFC 245. Oh, no, not UFC 245. Fight Night before that. Regardless, it's been a while. So welcome back to another episode of Fight Briefing. Tonight we're discussing UFC 246. The UFC does return this weekend with its first show of 2020. And it's a big one because we've got Conor McGregor taking on Donald Cowboy Cerrone in the main event of UFC 246 from Las Vegas, which is like the breeding ground of UFC pay-per-views. The card overall, guys, is not that deep, you could argue. Now, I take that back. Some people I have seen already say that they like the prelims better than the main card, aside from the headliner. And that's a fair argument. You know, it's got some pretty decent fights on the preliminaries. But overall, I'm hearing a lot of, like, fuzz. Is it just me? Maybe it's just me. Overall, for the entire card, I would say it's really not that deep, which is hardly surprising given that, you know, McGregor's, you know, likely pay packet, I guess you could call it. But it's still got a handful of solid fights and extremely awesome prospects that are coming up in the rankings and stuff like that to keep an eye on. So I'm going to give you guys my predicted outcomes for UFC 246, and then we're going to find out what your guys' are. But let's see who's in the chat first. Let's say hello to everybody hanging out. Easy win says C. Blanco. Babyface Jesse is here. Babyface, no such thing. C. Blanco says easy Justin Jr. talking about UFC 246. Mark Hunt mentioned and went in depth and got angry. Okay, we get it, Justin. I gotta be honest with you. It's not that we don't appreciate all the hard work you're putting in, but I'm starting to get a little annoyed. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I get it, man. You're like shoving it down our throats at this point.
Wonderful. All
right, let's get back in the chat. Sega Cam says Drunk Earth, so Drunk Earth. I read Flat Earth and Drunk Savage at the same time. Drunk Savage says sup Sega Camp. Cheers JVH, easy as fuck. Finally JVH. Sup Shannon, easy. Don't be hating on his hustle. I don't hate on the hustle. I just hate on it being shoved down my throat every 2 freaking seconds. All right. Now, let's talk about the fights that are on the card, or the main card for UFC 246. 1 second, guys. 1 second. Papa! Here we go. Ready? We're going to go to the first fight of the main card. Anthony Pettis versus Diego Ferreira. I love this fight. After a brief foray up to welterweight with this fight, we saw him knock out Stephen Thompson in an awesome way, and being overcome by Nate Diaz. I think Anthony Pettis is back at 155 to take on Diego Ferreira for what could be an excellent fight. So I'm really excited to see this one. I think this one is something that we should really pay attention to as the first fight on the main card. But let's move on. The second fight on the main card, Claudia Gadelha versus Aleksei Grasso. Believe it or not, I actually think this might be the second most exciting fight on the main card. And I know, like, that sounds preposterous to a lot of people, but I'll explain to you why when we get to that fight. But keep an eye out for this one, guys. Keep an eye out. Oleinik versus Maurice Greene. This one is kind of funny. I like the fight. I think it's a great matchup because you got someone who's a heavy hitter. You got someone who's, like, freaking awesome on submissions. I like this one simply because, like Moss mentioned before, he thought Aleksei was retiring, and I was kind of on board with him. Like, I didn't think that there were going to be many more fights for Oleinik, so it's kind of interesting to me to see this fight kind of match up. But that's not to say it's a bad fight. It's not a bad fight. It's just very odd. to see it on the main card for this pay-per-view, but I'll take it. Holm versus Raquel Pennington. This is a rematch fight. Now, I will say, when I was doing some research on this fight, I actually went back and watched a few clips of this fight, the first fight, and I have a lot to say about this. And one, Pulse brought up, Pulse Resurrected in the chat, he brought up some very interesting points, and I went back and I watched the fight, or highlights of the fight and stuff, and he's not far off. He's really not far off, so it's going to be interesting to talk about this one. And then we got the main event of the evening. Conor McGregor versus Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Cerrone is getting paid in this fight, guys. He's getting that moolah. Yes, now, I love this fight simply because it is so difficult to pick. I think MMA journalists, I think MMA fans, and on top of everything, odds makers are severely underestimating Cowboy in this fight. Now, I'm not going to give you my pick until we get to that fight, and I'll tell you why I picked that person, but it's very interesting to me to see the constant underestimation of one fighter who has shown nothing but promise. Now, granted, the pressure and everything of being in a big fight, I can understand, but has shown nothing but promise against someone like Conor McGregor. So this fight is very interesting to me for a lot of reasons, and we'll get to that. But we'll start off with the first fight of the evening, which is Anthony Pettis versus Diego Ferreira. Now, like I said, after being up at welterweight for Anthony Pettis and seeing him knock out Stephen Thompson, he was kind of taken over or overcome by Nate Diaz. Anthony Pettis is back at 155, which is not odd territory for him. He's been there before. And I feel that this could arguably be a good position for him right now. Now, I'm going to take a different approach to this. I'm not going to start off with whether they're on a win streak or a losing streak or what their record is. I'm just going to get right into it. Starting with Anthony Pettis. I really believe that it is safe to say that Anthony Pettis' fighting style hasn't really changed much. I can't even fucking talk right now. What is wrong with me? It hasn't really changed much since his entrance into the UFC. You could argue that, he actually has remained practically the same as far as style is concerned. But some of his strengths are really going to come into play here against someone like Ferreira, such as his striking, such as his flashy style, such as his kicks. He has a capability of keeping a range in a lot of his fights, and in that range throwing those kicks and making it really, he uses them at his advantage. Ferreira, now, I do believe that Ferreira is going to be a rather tough fight for Pettis, but not the toughest fight Pettis has ever had. Ferreira is on a 5-fight winning streak, as we all know, but I don't want you to be fooled by that 5-fight winning streak. That 5-fight winning streak was against opponents that are not nearly as tough as Anthony Pettis is. Pettis might arguably be the toughest opponent that Ferreira will have to keep that 5-fight winning streak going. All of the other fighters that Ferreira fought to get that streak, albeit dangerous fighters, and they do all have their strengths and weaknesses, were not nearly as tough as you could argue Pettis was. And that's something that is extremely important in this fight, because Pettis being Ferreira's toughest fight, Ferreira's going to have to pull himself out of his comfort zone a little bit and kind of drag himself maybe into the range of Pettis a little bit, which could be dangerous because of Pettis' kicks. Now, this fight ultimately leads to whether or not Pettis can be pressured.
Oh, go to sleep.
Hold on.
You need to back up, and you can go to sleep too.
Got a donation.
Wonder Boy, what is the secret to your power? Also, happy early birthday to Lady C. Wonderful, wonderful.
Oh, thanks, Drunk Savage. I would play the song, but I actually have it. I have a whole bunch of screens right now, so I don't have access to it. But actually, you know what? Fuck it. Drunk Savage, he donated. Let me find it. Let me see if I can drag this stuff over real quick. Hold on.
Wonder Boy, what are the secrets of your power?
All right, there you go. That's for Drunk Savage. And thank you, Drunk Savage. Lady C, my mama, her birthday is next week. So, yeah, everyone make sure you say happy birthday to Lady C, give her presents and stuff like that. But thank you, Dirk Savage. I appreciate the donation. If you guys would like to donate, there's a Streamlabs link in the description below, as well as super chat in the chat. But let's get back to the fight, because this is important to talk about. I think bottom line for this fight, if I had to be perfectly honest, I really don't think Ferreira pressuring Pettis is really an option here. Ferreira does do a good job at pressuring some of his opponents. I just don't think Pettis is going to be the one that he does that with. We could argue that Ferreira would use the pressure and try and, like, you know, push Pettis a little bit on the outside, enough to kind of keep Pettis from picking him apart with those kicks and that striking. But I personally don't feel it's going to happen. I just feel that Pettis is a lot more powerful with his striking and much more strategic. And I do worry that Ferreira's lack of ability to be an explosive fighter is really going to kind of be his downfall in this fight, in defending from getting picked apart. So that being said, I also feel that Pettis is really going to capitalize on those kicks. He'd be smart to capitalize on those kicks. If he doesn't, I would be very surprised. Anytime Ferreira comes close in range, Pettis has a huge advantage by kind of kicking him and picking him apart through the legs, or even a head kick. Like, Pettis has so many advantages in this fight. It's ridiculous. It's almost like a layup. It's kind of crazy. Now, Ferreira will be a tough opponent. Overall, I really think this should be an opportunity for Pettis to really prove that he's still relevant in the 155-pound division, because he was up at 170, and I see him capitalizing on it by sort of hitting another big KO, perhaps, potentially with another flashy head kick. So, my pick, I'm going to go Pettis by KO TKO. Let me know who you guys have in the chat. Henry Galusha says, no way, Drunk Savage. Want a French with the kissy faces. Kissy faces back, Wanda. Chris Hansen says, talk about Yoel. Drunk Savage, yes, sir. Chris Loring Moss is at the Mafia Duncan. Pettis by Cobra Clutch. Mamacita over here. Pettis by Boston Crab. Damn, says T-Bird. Holly Holmes' body makes me touch my pee-pee, says Art Vandalay. Happy early birthday to Lady C. That's right. I've got JBH's titty for this one. That's not appropriate, yo mama. Drunk Savage says Ferreira via submission. Pettis by DQ. Going with Pettis. Showtime. I just said hi to Chris at the strip club. Pettis File says Nello M. Jonathan Wilberding says Anthony Pettis by Wet Willie submission in the third. Frumptious Snowman says can't rely on Pettis to be Showtime at 24/7. Where's Moss? Says Aiden Valento. This is a JBH only stream. Welcome to Fight Briefing. Thursdays only. 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time on pretty much every UFC pay-per-view that we have, or every UFC event that we have going on Thursdays. So welcome if you haven't been here before. All right, guys, make sure you get those likes up. We're about to do 50 likes here in a second. But before we do that, I would very much like to move on to the next fight, which, like I said, I feel this could be the second most important fight to pay attention to on the main card. Now, for those of you guys who think not so much, I understand. We've got two female fighters who arguably don't have, the kind of hype that other fighters do. But we are looking at two strawweights who are amongst the best in the world in their division. And this is why this fight is very, very important to pay attention to. Gadelha, albeit she has gone 2-2 in her last 4 fights, she's still an extremely dangerous fighter in all areas. Grasso was arguably robbed in her last outing, in her last fight, against Carla Esparza, which I even said, I don't think Carla Esparza won that fight. I really don't think she won that fight. If you go back and watch that reaction, I think Moss was on board with that as well. I'm not entirely sure, so don't quote me on that. But it's easy to say Grasso won that fight. Presents.
JBH, the MMA chick.
Woo! Thank you, Presents. Thank you. Oh, by the way, thank you for bringing that up, Presents. This is the last day to get onto the Tapology Pick'em League that we have going on. Link in the description to the MMA-Holes. You can find our Pick'em League Goat Milk. This is like one of your last chances to get on board with that and make your picks and get involved in the Pick'em League, because the fights are Saturday. So make sure you guys jump in there as quick as possible. Link in the description. All right. Claudia Gadelha.
Super chat.
Juvenile Johnny.
Love the show.
Oh, thanks,
Great
Juvenile.
work.
Thanks. You're the best, Juvenile. Psh. Everyone do a dance for Juvenile Johnny. Juvenile Johnny. Making compliments. I'm not really good at freestyle rapping.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I'm actually really bad at freestyle rapping. I can't come up with things like that. Sorry, guys. Apologize. All right. Now, Claudia Gadelha. First thing, in my opinion, she's not to be underestimated. I know in this fight it's easy to go with Aleksei Grasso for a lot of reasons, and I'll point those out. But do not underestimate Claudia Gadelha in this fight. She doesn't normally give up much range in her fights. And to be quite honest, I really don't feel like Grasso is any exception here. Gadelha is 5'4". So she stands 1 inch shorter than Grasso, but as we all know, height really means nothing when it comes to fighters going at it, whether on the ground or on the feet. Your height ultimately means nothing. What really matters is the reach. Now, Gadelha is at 66.3 inches. Sorry, 63.3 inches. I don't know. She's at like 63 inches, something like that. And that's not really a match for Grasso, who is at 66 inches, which means that Gadelha is, going to have to find her range in this fight and sort of and she's going to have to find it fast, and she's going to have to find it as efficiently as possible within the first round, because if she doesn't, she can easily get picked apart in this fight. But Grasso, as we know, Grasso does have a lot more advantages in the fight, as well as when it comes to her reach, when it comes to her range, when it comes to her style in fighting. Arguably too many advantages in her fighting style altogether. She's also an excellent counter striker, Grasso. If she wants to get her to the ground, Gadelha is going to have to kind of walk into Grasso's wheelhouse, which might not be safe for Gadelha. So quite honestly, this is genuinely a winnable fight for Grasso, and if you picked Grasso, I wouldn't kill you for it. But
super chat.
Travis Tabor.
Cheers, JBH. Solo tonight? I bet my home on the Conor fight.
Solo tonight, Travis. Every Thursday night that there's a UFC event that weekend, I am solo JBH at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Cheers to you, Travis. I only have water tonight. My apologies. But you're going to bet your home on the Conor fight. Who are you betting for? I'm interested, Travis. Let me know when we get to the Conor fight. I'm interested. All right. So, like I said, Grasso, this is a winnable fight for her. It's very easy to be like, Grasso has more advantages. She has the better reach. She's a better counter striker. She's better with, her clinch and stuff like that. Like, it's easy to argue that Grasso's going to take the win. So I'm not going to kill you if you take Grasso for the win. But let's not forget that where there are strengths, there are weaknesses. Are you listening, class? As far as striking and power is concerned, I'm not quite sure that Grasso really has what it takes to really knock Gadelha out, which is fair considering that even though Grasso has 4 TKOs on her record, none of them are in the UFC. Gadelha does have a pretty decent chin. We saw that when she fought Joanna Jędrzejczyk and when she fought Jessica Andrade. In both fights, she always pulled through as best as possible in those fights. Grasso, like I said, does have those TKOs, but none of them in the UFC. And honestly, I just don't think she has that knockout power that she used to have now. So bottom line for this fight, as winnable as this fight may seem for Grasso, you honestly, like I said, you wouldn't be a complete nincompoop if you chose Aleksei Grasso for the win, but I'm not leaning in that direction. Grasso has been taken down on more than one occasion in her past fights, and she's not the greatest with her ground defense. When she fought Tatiana Suarez fucking choked her out. Like, the girl, like, her defense is incomparable to something that Gadelha could throw at her. So we know that Gadelha is certainly going to capitalize on a situation like that, and I really feel we're going to see something relatively similar in this fight around as the Grasso-Suarez fight. So Gadelha takes the win by submission. Put that in the books, guys. Gadelha by submission. Let me know who you guys have in the chat. Thanks, Jess. Jamie said poop. I said nincompoop. She's the best part of this crazy circus. Don't sleep in Claudia. That's right, Juvenile. Johnny Sickness. Yeah, baby. Here we go. MMA-Holes girl fight. Has anybody seen Mike Hunt? MacD says the Claudia by north to south submission. Claudia says Drunk Savage. Flat Earth is going Grasso. Don't worry, you're not a nincompoop, Flat Earth, but that's a bad pick. Henry Galusha says Claudia. Justin Jr., I have Claudia. Eduardo Romero, 2 beauties. Flat Earth with the fist pump at 50 likes. Do we have 50 likes? All right, guys, before I move on to the next fight of the main card, we have
I've got 50 likes.
You've got 50 likes. We've got 50 likes.
MMA-Holes 50 likes. I've got 50 likes. You've got 50 likes. We've got 50 likes. MMA-Holes 50 likes. I've got 50 likes. You've got 50 likes. We've got 50 likes. MMA-Holes 50 likes. The dislikes can choke on a dick.
Penis. All right. All right, guys. Thank you for letting me know who you guys have in the chat. The next fight of the night, Aleksei Oleinik versus Maurice Greene. And like I said before, if this seems like an odd fight to showcase on the UFC pay-per-view for the first pay-per-view of 2020, that's because it is. I know Mystic Moss thought Aleksei Oleinik was retiring. I even kind of had that inclination that Oleinik was kind of, all right, let's throw in the gloves and kind of move on with wherever you are. So I get it. Also, both men are coming off of 2 losses. Oleinik coming off of two losses. It doesn't look great for him. And honestly, like, they aren't really likely to make it into the title picture anytime soon. Maybe Maurice Greene because he's a little younger, and he does have that promise as a striker. But I really don't think he has what it takes against Oleinik on the ground. So that's something he would definitely have to work on as a contender. However, we all know that the UFC does love a good heavyweight clash, so of course they're going to throw something like that on the main card, and if there's one to throw on, this one does make the most sense. So, we'll get started with Oleinik, but like I said, I don't blame you if you're a little thrown off by the fact that this is on the pay-per-view. For a Conor McGregor pay-per-view, like, it is a bit odd, but I'll take it. I'll take it. Now, like I said, Oleinik is better on the ground. On the ground, Oleinik is genuinely deadly. We've seen his submission game a lot in the past, with his specialty being the Ezekiel choke that we've seen multiple times. Now, let me just start off by saying I would give the puncher's chance to Maurice Greene here, simply because I do worry that Oleinik has slowed down significantly, and that's kind of why everyone has this inclination that maybe he's retiring, he's ready to throw up the gloves, because he is a lot slower than the Oleinik we used to see maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But on that same note, I really feel that Oleinik is tough as nails, this guy. He's quite capable of taking some serious striking. Most notably, if we saw the Overeem fight, albeit he did lose, he did withhold some pretty heavy damage before falling. And that's really important because Maurice Greene is a heavy hitter. So he's going to need that kind of ability to take on that striking as Maurice comes after him. If there's one word to describe Aleksei Oleinik, I would honestly say unorthodox. He's an unorthodox fighter. Now, that's not a veiled criticism either. It's just that somehow he manages to beat people in MMA with things that don't have a high success rate from other fighters. He's a very unique fighter, which is perfectly okay because it clearly works for him. Now, Greene is a different story here. He's a relatively decent athlete, if you ask me. He's also a genuinely huge guy. He's 6'7", this guy. He's 6'7", Maurice Greene. And he's 265 pounds. This guy's a fucking giant. One advantage I might even say he has over Oleinik is that he's much, much bigger, and his striking power. I do worry, though, because Oleinik is smaller. He's entirely skillful in everything he does, and size doesn't matter when you're on the ground. So regardless of their size, Oleinik still has that ability to kind of overpower Maurice Greene and take that submission. So bottom line for this fight, honestly, I really feel that this is a much more winnable fight for Oleinik. I know a lot of people would go Greene because he's younger, he's got that striking power, he's faster. He has the whole recipe for being the winner in this fight. I know Greene is a dangerous opponent for him, but I honestly just can't seem to get the idea out of my head that Oleinik is going to do what he does best. He's going to secure a takedown on Greene, who's most likely going to try and grapple back. And that's certainly going to cost Greene a win, because ultimately Oleinik is just far superior on the ground. We've all seen this multiple times. His submission game is outrageous. So I am going to take Oleinik takes the win by submission. Put it in the books. All right, let me know who you guys have. All right. Greene drinks and smokes cigs all during this training all the time, says Ann H. Vigas Stockholm says, JBH, you deserve more size. What does that even mean, more size? I am 5'11" and I'm size 12 in shoes, says Benjamin Ellum. Yo, Mama says, JBH, I'm very curious. Are you buying the ninja skin in item shop today? The famous streamer ninja skin, not a Ninja Turtle skin. I don't know. My Fortnite, if you're referring to Fortnite. Oh shit. It played without my consent. If you're referring to Fortnite, I don't know, because there's like an hour-long update going on, so I can't play. It's so frustrating. All right, Jesse, go get Chris and go make a sandwich. I'm making Chris food right now, actually. It's in the crock pot. Micro Grow Bloom. I got Oleinik for the win by sub 2. Maurice Purple. Ghost. Can we not talk Fortnite? I just did. The fuck? This is my show. What are you gonna do about it? Absolutely fucking nothing. Oh, I can't flip off a 12-year-old. That's horrible. That's horrible. Yes, all right, guys. Let's move on to the next fight of the night. The co-main event of the evening. All right, guys. Holm versus Raquel Pennington. Now, I know some people were like super off their game about this fight. They hated the idea that Holm versus Pennington was happening again. This is a rematch fight. And I did go back and watch the first fight just to kind of get a little extra information on when I was doing my research on what's going on. Pennington is returning from 2 straight losses in July. And then she took on Irene Aldana and took the win. But despite that big win, Aldana is near a title shot herself after her KO to Ketlin Vieira. So, like, you can't really use that as an advantage for Raquel Pennington. And Aldana's a fucking tough opponent, but, I mean, Aldana's already been on a straight run. It was just a bad night for her, I really feel. So it's unlikely that Pennington will really get another title shot, especially against Nunes, given her loss to Nunes back in 2018. So I'm not really, like, even if Pennington wins this fight against Holm, it doesn't really look promising for her as far as title shots are concerned. So I really feel that this fight alone, not given that, I feel this fight may go to a decision, simply because not only is it a female fight, and most female fights statistically do go to decision, I don't feel we're going to see very much of a brawl here, because the last fight they were very careful of each other, and the power behind their striking. So as their first fight was an interesting one, there's something that Pulse mentioned. He called in on Monday's show with regard to the first fight, and I'll mention that in a second. But Holm took a decision based on essentially 2 rounds of kickboxing with Pennington at range more than anything truly damaging. Holm was also completely happy to simply, pick away until the 3rd round, because Pennington, she arguably couldn't get inside the kicking range of Holly Holm. Holm was also completely, she kind of had this ability to keep her patience in that fight. So, like, I really feel that that's something that we should look at. I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, well, Raquel knocked her down. She knocked her down. It's not, Holm's going to lose this fight. But really, really consider the patience that Holm put into this fight, and the fact that she did pick away at Pennington a lot more towards that third round, almost like playing with her food, like what John Jones does. No pun intended, because John Jones and Holly Holm were having an affair. All right. Now, Pulse in our chat did bring up the fact that Rocky threw caution to the wind and kind of began to walk Holly Holm down through wild, combinations, and Holm was looking extremely good with her defense technique, but, Rocky did, knock her a little bit. I went back and I watched the round, and he's not far off. So, Pulse, I give you credit there. Holm was certainly rattled in that fight, and to be quite honest, I wasn't impressed with her performance. Now, she did have enough to win, but it is important to take into account that it was Holm's octagon debut at the time, so she didn't really appear as comfortable as usual, and you could really argue that Holm never really felt comfortable in the octagon until around the time that she fought Ronda Rousey. So, I don't really put that against Holm. Holm has her comfortability now in the octagon. Pennington, with this argument, I'm honestly not so convinced that Pennington can really be the fighter to take Holm out in this fight. I do give her that she has made tremendous improvements over the last few years, but I really still feel she's not where she needs to be at a range, and against someone like Holm, I just think that she's going to be at nothing but disadvantages. Now, she is much better inside the clinch. We have seen that a lot. We've seen a lot of improvement, or even on the ground. She has she has great defense, but she's certainly not, it's just not enough in her skill set to defend against a heavy striker like Holm, who's most likely going to try and pick her apart. Another thing to keep in mind is that Pennington isn't isn't as proficient in kickboxing as some of Holm's past opponents. You take Chris Cyborg, you take Jermaine Durandamy, you take Valentina Shevchenko. All of those opponents that Holly Holm lost to were all proficient kickboxers, heavy kickboxers, and they were capable of cutting off those movements by Holly Holm and sort of defeating her by digging into her range and taking her out that way. Pennington does not have that ability that those three fighters did. So she's not going to be one of the ones that defeat Holm. So bottom line for this fight, guys, honestly, unless Pennington can draw Holm into a brawl, which is probably not going to happen, I don't think she can. I really don't see how she can stop Holm from simply striking her way in and kind of picking her apart for the 3 rounds that she did in their first fight. And given Holm's experience since then, the smart money has to be on her. So, Holly Holm takes the win by unanimous decision. Put it in the books. Let me know who you guys have in the chat. Johnny says, yeah, bravo, casual. She is hot for almost 40, says Flat Earth Deacon. Nice job, JBH. That's Mark Wallace. Thank you, Mark Wallace. I'm fapping 2 right now. Holly, JBH says, Jose Loco. Craig M says, the Eagle, I agree. Good analyst, JBH. Holly, but coin flip. Armstrong, Tracker Channel says, my smart money on you, girlfriend. Home by TKO. Holly looks fantastic, but I've seen her I've seen her in years. You've seen her in years. Hi, Aussie Cat Moss. How's it going? Hope your night's going well. Gibby says, next fight. August says, yeah. Fred Fowler. Khabib is going to jump the octagon and kick Conor in the balls. Shannon Stewart, Holly for the win. And H, I got Holly too. Boss Coker, I think. I don't care, but Holm, I guess. Whatever. All right, guys, girls, guys, whatever you guys are called. The main event. Oh, wait. The main.
Boom, roasted. Boom, roasted. You suck. Boom, roasted.
Chuck Savage.
If Holly loses, expect Mcgregor to take the L also, just like last time.
Yeah.
The jinx is in. Also, is Moss gonna put on the fake Mcgregor tattoos on Saturday? Would be good content, bro.
No, I don't think Moss is putting on the fake Mcgregor tattoos, but Drunk Savage, you're not the first one to say that about the whole jinx, because the last McGregor fight where Holm was the co-main event. Yeah, I get it. But, no, I don't. Holm's not going to lose, so you have nothing to worry about. But on that same note, if you think Holm wins the co-main event and if you believe in that curse stuff, I can understand why you think Conor's going to win as well. I'm going to talk about it right now. The next fight. The
main event of the evening.
All right, guys. Conor McGregor versus Donald Cowboy
Cerrone.
I just like using that voice change. Sorry, guys.
Super chat.
Travis DeBoer.
If Conor loses, I am absolutely homeless. Yee.
All right, let me know how much money you put on Conor. Let's get into it, guys. This is such an important fight because this is the first fight Conor McGregor comes back after his fight with Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, we've all found it rather odd and rather interesting that two very, very exceptional 155-pound fighters are willing to move up to the 170-pound division to fight. It's really not far off to say that the weight class may suit Cowboy a little bit more than it'll suit Conor McGregor. Cowboy has fought at 170 on numerous occasions. Conor McGregor only fought at 170 on 2 occasions. And Cowboy nearly reached the title shot back in 2017 before being derailed by Jorge Masvidal. Also, something I wanted to point out is that Cowboy has beaten some pretty tough competition like Rick Story, like Matt Brown, Mike Perry at welterweight, while McGregor's sole experience consists of 2 fights against the same opponent, Nate Diaz, who is another natural 155-pounder. So I know everyone is high on Conor. The betting odds are high on Conor. The MMA fans are high on Conor. Even the journalists are high on Conor. But let me tell you why Conor might not be as high on that level as you might think he is. Conor McGregor does at least appear to be taking the fight seriously. So I will give him that. The last time against Khabib Nurmagomedov, he didn't take the fight very seriously. We've all seen some recent photos of him, and he's looking pretty jacked right now. Also, Dana White said that the UFC doctor said that Conor looks healthier than he's ever seen him, which is something to take into account. That tells me that Conor is focused, he's got the horse blinders on, and he's ready to go. Now, one of the websites I was researching said, for this fight, said it best. Let me pull it up here. They said if he loses this one, his relevance and drawing status would likely come into question as he hasn't won a fight since 2016. And nobody's thinking about that. If Conor McGregor loses this fight, imagine what happens to his name. Everyone forgets about him. It's all, what's next for Cowboy? What's next for Cowboy? Nobody cares about Conor McGregor versus Jorge Masvidal, Conor McGregor versus Khabib Nurmagomedov, Conor McGregor replacing the Khabib Ferguson fight in case something happens. Nobody gives a fuck about that. Now, this fight is leading up to seem like it's going to stay predominantly on the feet. I think it's going to be a striking battle. Cowboy even said it in the interview that if you think that he's just going to take Conor down to kind of win the fight, like you're kind of an asshole, you know. I really do think this fight is leading up to be a striking battle. One thing we have to keep in mind though is Cowboy does have a few very apparent weaknesses going on here that could really bode well for Conor. So I'm not going to count the fact that Conor has a lot of advantages here. Cowboy, for one, is a slow starter in comparison to McGregor, who tends to kind of finish things relatively quickly. Obviously, everyone remembers the Jose Aldo fight where he finished him in 13 seconds in the first round. Also, Dustin Poirier. Also, Eddie Alvarez, Chad Mendes, Dennis Seaver. You take all of those fighters that Conor's faced, he is the kind of fighter who likes to finish things quick. He doesn't want to give you a show. He wants to show you that he is the one to knock everyone out in a matter of seconds. Now, say we put away Cowboy's weaknesses for just a minute and focus on the advantages that he does have over Conor McGregor. At 6'1", he does have a height advantage, but like we all know, that means nothing when they're on the ground. McGregor is 5'9", but he has a 73-inch reach compared to Conor's 74. Cowboy's 74-inch reach. So there's a 1-inch reach advantage. So they're very, very close, which makes this very difficult to call. It's clear that Cowboy's not really going to allow McGregor to kind of snipe at him from outside, as he did with the opponents that I had previously mentioned, like Dennis Seaver and Chad Mendes. Cowboy's going to be very, very smart. He'd be smart to stay at range. He'd be smart to find that range quick. Within, like, I'd say the first minute of the first round, find that range. Like, if he doesn't find that range, it's going to be very difficult for him because Conor's a very fast striker. We've also have to keep in mind that Cowboy is widely known for his kicks, which we've seen the head kicks. Like, he's a huge fan of the head kicks. It's kind of stupid. His kicking game is incomparable to a lot of other fighters that we have seen, and he's adept to using long punches and jabs to keep his opponents at a distance, which will come in handy for him against a striker like Mcgregor, who likes to kind of come in range and strike technically and get you on that right spot at just the right moment to knock you out. So I firmly believe against an opponent like Conor McGregor, Cowboy's best bet would be to continuously come at Conor with those kicks, keep him at range, and then maybe mix in some of those takedowns to kind of keep Conor at bay. And I mentioned this on the Monday fight. He would be smart to do that. Now, the only problem I really foresee with a game plan like that is that Cowboy might have some difficulty gauging where that distance is exactly, since Conor's such a difficult striker to be up against. Conor comes in and albeit technical and style, and has a great style in his striking, you can never predict what kind of striking he's going to bring at you. It's always been different striking with all of his opponents. So Cowboy's going to have to figure that out quick, and he's going to have to come in quick. Now, given that Conor is such a technical striker, like I said, Cowboy's got to find that perfect range to be able to catch Conor at just the right time to kind of give Conor a taste of his own medicine. But bottom line of this fight, I know it's a huge reach, given that the betting odds on this fight are all Conor, given that the journalists are all Conor, the fans are all Conor.
Go to sleep. Man, you need to back up, or you can go to sleep too.
If McGregor loses, he could go to boxing to fight Paulie under Zufar Boxing. I don't think an L will completely ruin him, but hopefully it will kill proper 12 sales.
It certainly wouldn't ruin him, but it would make you question, because a lot of people are going to be focused on Cowboy. What's next for Cowboy? Cowboy is going to be the one that everyone's paying attention to now because he beat Conor McGregor outside of being just a massive wrestler like Khabib. So it wouldn't ruin Conor. Conor has enough money to freaking feed 20 million starving children, but it would put a huge damper in his plan for his UFC career. Now, like I said, I know it's a reach to go for Cowboy here. The betting odds, the fans, the journalists, they're all going Conor. I know how a lot of MMA fans feel about the potential of Conor coming out with a win because I saw the predictions. But quite honestly, I could care less. Cowboy certainly has the chance to win this fight, and he's a much better striker in terms of overall skills, including kickboxing, than McGregor, and he's far better in terms of grappling than McGregor. I really think that on paper, he can overcome a lot of weaknesses that McGregor might find in him by being a bit more strategic, and I really feel that there's less pressure on him to win this fight than there is on Conor.
Super chat.
Conor will go because he will step in after he throws the right leg kick and hit him with the left hand. Always drops his hands when he does this.
That's a fair point, and that might happen. I just don't see it. I don't foresee it. So listen, if you pick Conor, more power to you. I'm not going to kill you for it. It's a fair pick. This is probably, like, the reason I'm so excited for this is not simply because, like, oh, Conor McGregor's coming back. It's because this is going to be one of the toughest picks I've ever made. Everyone's going Conor, and everything in me says Conor, Conor, Conor. But I'm trying to differentiate whether it's because everyone's going Conor or because I actually want to pick Conor. And honestly, I don't want to pick Conor. Cowboy Cerrone is going to take the win by a brilliant knockout. Put it in the books. Let me know who you guys have in the chat. Mystic Moss says, never doubt the belly tiger. Yes, Steelers respect. Scullier says, no, Cowboy. Cowboy will win. Conor is a better fighter than JBH. JBH retains her belt, says Drunk Savage. Yes, he's a deer, says Shep. I believe him. Cowboy will be a stand-up. Hi, my friends. The Godfather is in Italy is alive. Cowboy been working hard at a new fight camp to work on his striking. Fuck yeah, Cowboy. She's crazy as hell. I shit bigger than both of them. The fight clock is brought to you by Modelo. Jesse, and I am not a Conor fan. Only issue I have is Cowboy getting injured via pads. I fought Kelvin's cousin out here in Arizona back in the day. Test, that's a bold prick. That's a bold thing. I just said. Sorry, Eric. I said that's a bold prick. So stupid. So stupid. All right, guys. Thank you for letting me know who your guys' picks are. Not pricks. Who your guys' picks are. For the Conor McGregor versus Cowboy Cerrone main card. We went through just a quick recap of who's going to win the fights based on JBH's picks. Anthony Pettis versus Diego Ferreira. Pettis takes the win. Claudia Gadelha versus Aleksei Grasso. Claudia Gadelha, don't sleep on that lady. Aleksei Oleinik versus Greene. Oleinik by submission. Holm versus Raquel Pennington. Of course we know Holm is going to take the win in this fight. And the main event, Conor McGregor versus Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Cowboy takes the win by a brilliant TKO. I am so fucking excited for these fights this weekend, guys. You have no idea. I think we're gonna have the Mystic parents over and we're gonna party. We're gonna have a couple drinks. We're gonna watch the fights. But I have got to be quite honest, this is the most excited I've been in the last couple months for a fight. Simply because this is a fighter that's coming back who loves to shit talk and loves to build up a big game for himself. But I notice he's not doing that anymore, and I think it's because he's afraid he's going to lose. So I'm very excited to see who's going to win this fight. Am I going to be right? Am I going to be 5 out of 5 on my picks? Am I going to retain the belt over there? And that being said, thank you to all of my sources that I use to research What Culture, Sportskeeda, Betting Shark, Forbes, BetDSI, and Tapology. I would not be able to research all these fights without them, so thank you. And don't forget to join us tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, for Fuka Friday. We will be live then. And last but not least, don't forget, in the comment section after this stream is over, let me know who you guys have as your picks for UFC 246. Don't be an a-hole, be an